I missed a $40 million deal because a 6-year-old grabbed my sleeve and screamed that her mom was dying. If it were you standing there with your boarding pass in one hand and your whole career in the other, what would you have done? Be honest for a second, because I was not ready for the answer I gave that day. My name is Cameron West, and on paper, I'm exactly what people picture when they hear the word billionaire. Private jet corner office above the clouds. 3 phones buzzing on 3 different continents. Assistants guarding my calendar like it's national security. At least that was my life the morning this story started. I was supposed to be on a flight to Tokyo to close a deal that would bump my net worth up by a number most people will never see. In a lifetime, a deal I'd spent months negotiating, a deal my board called too big to fail. And yeah, I bought into that. But instead of sitting in first class, sipping champagne, I was standing in Terminal B holding a useless boarding pass, watching my jet taxi away without me, because a conference call went 20 minutes too long, and traffic did what traffic always does in this city. I was furious. I paced near Gate 47 custom suit jacket, open phone glued to my ear, half yelling at my assistant while people pretended not to stare. In my head, I was already calculating the damage, mentally firing the driver, reworking time zones, plotting how to fix this without looking like I'd slipped. That's how my brain works. Problem, damage, solution, move on. Numbers, not people. Schedules, not feelings. Then I heard it. Please, somebody help me. My mom, she's not waking up. You know how sometimes a sound cuts through everything, like somebody just turned down the volume on the entire world. The rolling suitcases, the overhead announcements, the chatter from the Starbucks line. All of it went muffled, and all I heard was that one small voice. I turned and saw her, little girl, maybe 6 years old. Brown curls, bouncing red dress, slightly wrinkled white sneakers with cartoon animals on the sides. Her cheeks were soaked with tears, and she was running full speed down the terminal, eyes wide with the kind of terror a kid should never know. She wasn't running toward a security guard, or the gate agent, or the help desk. She was running straight at me. She crashed into my legs so hard, she almost knocked me off balance, grabbed my jacket with both hands, and looked up at me like I was supposed to have all the answers in the world. Please, mister, please help me. My mom, she fell down and she won't wake up. Please. And here's the part I still think about at night. Behind her, maybe 30 feet away, near Gate 47, a woman in a yellow dress was lying on the floor. One arm stretched out like she'd tried to catch herself. Hair spread around her head. Around her, there was a loose circle of people, at least 20, maybe 30, some staring, some whispering, some already holding their phones up recording like this was a show. If it were you, what would you have done? Walked past and told yourself, someone else will handle it, because you were scared or busy or dropped everything and stepped in, knowing your whole day, maybe your whole life was about to blow up. I dropped my briefcase. Just let it hit the tile. Laptop, contracts, everything inside slamming onto the floor like it didn't matter, because suddenly, it didn't. I knelt down so I could look that little girl in the eye. Hey, it's okay, I said, trying to keep my voice steady, even though my heart was pounding. Where's your mom? She pointed with a shaking hand, still clinging to my suit with the other. She's over there. She fell. She won't talk to me. She won't open her eyes. You have to help her. Please. All right, I said. You did the right thing. Show me. Her hand slipped into mine. It was tiny, cold, and shaking so hard I could feel it all the way up my arm. We ran together down the terminal, weaving through people who pulled their suitcases closer, like we were the ones causing trouble. my Italian leather shoes slapping against the polished floor, my expensive watch suddenly feeling like a joke. When we reached her mom, my stomach dropped. She was sprawled on the ground in that yellow dress. Skin pale, lips dry. Breathing so shallow, you had to stare to see her chest move even a little. Her legs were twisted, her purse spilled open beside her. There was an open bottle of cheap water next to her, and a boarding pass with Florida printed in faded blue ink. She looked peaceful in a way that was completely wrong for an airport floor. "Mom, Mom, wake up," the girl cried, dropping to her knees, shaking her mother's shoulder. "I brought help. Please wake up." Pattern interrupt. Here's the ugly part. Nobody was touching this woman. Nobody was kneeling beside her asking questions, checking a pulse. But at least 4 people were filming on their phones. One guy was literally smiling, like he'd just found content for his page, and another woman was saying, "Someone should really call 911 while not dialing anything herself." Something in me went cold. "Someone call 911. Right now, I said loud enough that heads snapped toward me. People blinked. A couple lowered their phones. Nobody actually moved fast enough, so I pulled out my own phone and dialed. While the dispatcher asked questions, I checked the woman's wrist for a pulse. It was there, but weak and irregular. Her skin was clammy. Her forehead was sweaty. She looked like a person whose body had simply decided it was done. The little girl was clutching my arm so tight I could feel her nails through the fabric. "Is she gonna die? Is my mom gonna die?" she whispered. And I could hear her trying not to sob. I looked at this child whose entire universe was lying motionless on the floor, and I did something billionaires do all the time in boardrooms. I lied. "No, sweetheart," I said softly. "No, she's not. Help is on the way. We're going to make sure she gets taken care of, okay? What's your name?" Hope, she sniffed. Of course it was Hope. The smallest, most fragile kind of hope, right there on an airport floor. "That's a beautiful name," I said. "Hope you did something really brave coming to find help. I need you to keep being brave for your mom while we wait. Can you do that?" She nodded, wiping her face with the back of her hand, trying so hard to be stronger than any 6-year-old should ever have to be. Security finally arrived with a medical kit. Then paramedics with a stretcher. They started an IV, checked her vitals, lifted her gently. I watched the numbers on their monitor. Blood pressure way too low, heart rate bouncing all over the place. One of them muttered something about dehydration and exhaustion. They moved fast. "We're taking her to Mercy General," one of the paramedics said. "Closest trauma center." As they started to roll the stretcher away, Hope tried to follow, tripping over her own feet. "Wait, I have to go. That's my mom. I'm going with her," she cried. A security guard stepped in front of her, hands held out. "Hold on, honey. You can't ride in the ambulance. Do you have family we can call? Anyone here with you?" Hope looked up at him with wide, panicked eyes. "No, it's just me and my mom. Please don't leave me here. Please." And then she turned and looked at me. Not at security, not at the paramedics, not at the crowd. At me. Like somehow in the last 5 minutes, I had become the only fixed point in her spinning world. "Please don't leave me," she said. That was the fork in the road. That was the moment my life split into before and after. In one version of reality, I looked at my watch, handed her off to security, told myself I did my part, called my pilot and salvaged my Tokyo trip. I'd probably still be rich. I'd still have my corner office. I'd still sleep well most nights, because people like me are very good at rationalizing our choices. In the reality you're hearing right now, I opened my mouth and heard myself say, "I'll go with her. I'll follow the ambulance and bring her daughter." The paramedic squinted at me. "Are you family?" "No, I said I was at the gate when she collapsed. The girl came to me for help. She has nobody else here." He studied me for a moment like he was deciding whether I was serious or some kind of weirdo. "Mercy General," he said finally. "Emergency entrance. They'll need to verify guardianship when you get there. But yeah, don't leave her alone." That was it. That one small sentence from a stranger in uniform sealed it. I knelt down and looked at Hope. "We're going to the hospital, okay? I'll be with you the whole time. We're not leaving your mom alone." She nodded slowly and slid her hand into mine again. I picked up my abandoned briefcase with my free hand, and for the first time in my adult life, my work felt like dead weight. Here's the funny thing. By the time we walked out to the curb and climbed into my car, I'd forgotten about Japan. My driver Thomas glanced at us in the mirror, eyebrows raised. He's been with me long enough to know what my life normally looks like, and it does not include sobbing children in red dresses. "Mercy General," I said. "Emergency entrance. Fast but safe." He didn't ask anything else. Good drivers know when silence is part of the job. In the back seat, Hope hugged my arm like it was a life raft. "Why are you helping us?" she asked after a minute, her voice small but curious. "You don't even know us." Her question hit harder than I expected. Most grown-ups don't ask that so directly. "Because you needed help, and you asked me," I said. "And because it was the right thing to do." She thought about that in the serious way kids do. My mom always tells me. "When things are scary, look for the helpers," she said. She says there are always helpers. Are you a helper, Cameron? You know what? Nobody had ever asked me that before. People asked if I was successful, if I was rich, if I was powerful. Helper was not on that list. "I'm trying to be," I said. The truth is, up until that moment, if you'd looked at my life from the outside, you would not have used the word helper to describe me. I was the guy closing deals that made buildings change names and workers change schedules. I was the one sitting far above street level, while janitors and security guards and receptionists made sure the lights were on and the floors clean. I wrote checks to charities. Sure, I sat on hospital board photos in a nice suit. But when it got messy in real life, I stayed behind the tinted glass. That car ride to Mercy General started to crack that glass. The hospital was chaos, like every ER you've ever seen. Bright lights, sharp smells, nurses moving with that combination of speed and weariness you only see in people who live on the edge of other people's emergencies. As soon as we walked in, Hope rushed to the desk. "My mom came in an ambulance," she blurted. "She fainted at the airport and she wouldn't wake up. Her name is Destiny." "Destiny, right. Please, can I see her?" The nurse glanced at me over her head, taking in the suit, the watch, the way I hovered. "I'm Cameron West." I said I was with them at the airport. I brought her daughter. The ambulance got here maybe 15 minutes ago. Recognition flickered in her eyes. She'd gotten the call. "They're with her now," she said gently. "We're going to take good care of your mom." "Okay. Why don't you sit down for a second, and I'll see if the doctor can come talk to you." Hospital waiting rooms are designed to break you down slowly. The chairs are uncomfortable in a way you don't notice at first. The coffee tastes like punishment. The TV in the corner plays the same news on a loop. Time stretches and folds. My phone buzzed constantly. My assistant, my brother, someone from Tokyo asking if I'd boarded. I ignored them. Hope's legs swung off the chair not long enough to touch the floor. Every time a door opened, she jumped. After what felt like an hour, but was probably 20 minutes, a tall man in a white coat came over. "Hope," he asked. She shot to her feet. I stood up beside her. "I'm Dr. Patterson," he said. "I'm the doctor taking care of your mom. Is she okay?" Hope asked, voice trembling. "Is she going to wake up?" "She's stable right now," he said, kneeling. So he was her height. That means she's not getting worse. She's very tired, and her body kind of forced her to shut down. We think she's been working too hard, not eating or drinking enough. We're giving her fluids and medicine to help her heart and blood pressure. She's still sleeping, but her numbers are looking better. Do you understand a little?" Hope nodded like she understood all of it, even though I didn't understand half. "Can I see her?" she asked. "Please. I just need to see her." He glanced at me. I could see the wheels turning. Stranger with the kid, no obvious guardian. "I'll be right here," I told him. "She shouldn't have to wait without seeing her mom." He nodded. "Okay, just for a minute, and only you, Hope. Your friend will stay here." Hope looked back at me like she was checking, then followed him down the hallway. I watched her disappear around the corner and felt something I hadn't felt in a long time, completely powerless. That's when the clipboard lady showed up, Mr. West. She said, "I'm Jennifer from Patient Services. We need to talk about payment arrangements for Ms. Wright." There it was. The other emergency. You can't have a medical crisis in this country without a financial crisis tagging along behind it. She probably doesn't have insurance, Hope had said in the car when I asked if her mom had a card. She says we just have to be careful not to get sick. She works 3 jobs, Hope had added. Like that explained everything. Now those words echoed in my head. "She doesn't have insurance," I told Jennifer. "She's a single mom, working multiple jobs." Jennifer's eyes softened, but her voice stayed professional. "Emergency care will be provided regardless, but her stay tests and follow-up treatments will generate some significant costs. We can set up a payment plan based on her income." I didn't let her finish. I took out my wallet, slid out my black card, and handed it to her. "Put everything for Destiny Wright on this card," I said. "Room tests, medications, follow-ups, whatever she needs. Move her to a private room as soon as it's medically appropriate. I want the best team you have on her case." "Mr. West," she said carefully. "Hospital bills can be very high. Are you sure I'm sure I said, looking her dead in the eye. "You can run a credit check on me if you want." She actually laughed quietly. "We already did," she said. "We always do for people who hand over a card this fast. We know who you are." Of course they did. Being rich is like walking around with a permanent background check you never asked for. After she left, Hope came back with Dr. Patterson. Her eyes were red, but she looked calmer. I held her hand. She said, climbing back up onto the chair. It was warm. She looked like she was sleeping. I told her she had to wake up because I still need her. "Is she gonna wake up, Cameron?" "Yes," I said. And this time it felt less like a lie. She's in the right place. Hour after hour blurred together after that. Nurses came and went. Machines beeped announcements droned on about visiting hours. Hope eventually fell asleep with her head in my lap. My legs went numb, but I didn't move. Around midnight, my phone buzzed again. My brother. I almost declined, then sighed and answered. "Cam, what in the world are you doing?" he snapped. "Skipping hello. Tokyo is freaking out. The board is calling me. Your assistant says you went to the hospital with some kid. Have you lost your mind?" "I'm at Mercy General," I said quietly, glancing at Hope. "A woman collapsed at the airport. I brought her daughter here. I'm not leaving her alone." "You're not their father," he said. "Call social services. Let professionals handle it. You're missing a deal that could add $40 million to our valuation because you're babysitting a stranger." There it was again. Numbers versus people. "Do you remember when Mom was in the hospital?" I asked. That stopped him for a second. Of course I remember. Do you remember that night you couldn't get a flight back, and I was alone in that waiting room at 3 a.m.? I asked, remember who sat with me for half an hour when I thought she might not make it. Silence. Then, "The janitor," he said slowly. "Yeah," I said. "He couldn't fix anything. He didn't have money or power, but he sat next to me, talked about his grandkids." told me the hardest thing about hospitals isn't the sickness, it's the loneliness. I think about him every time I see someone sitting alone in a waiting room. I'm not leaving this kid like that. This is not the same, my brother said. You have responsibilities. Shareholders. Employees. You can't run around saving random people. I'm not running around. I said. I'm sitting in a chair while a 6-year-old sleeps. The company can survive one missed deal. You're going to regret this, he warned. Maybe, I said. But if I walk away right now, I'll regret that a lot more. I hung up before he could answer. For the first time in a long time, I chose not to prioritize money. Stick around because what happened next will blow your mind. Around 3:30 in the morning, Dr. Patterson came back to the waiting room. I could tell from the way he was walking that he had news. She's waking up, he said. Looking at Hope first. Hope sat straight up like someone had shocked her. She's still very weak, he said. But she's conscious. She asked for you. We went to the room together. Destiny looked small in that hospital bed, wires. Everywhere, oxygen cannula under her nose hair, messy against the pillow. Her skin was still pale, but her eyes were open, trying to focus. Mom. Hope whispered, climbing carefully onto the edge of the bed. Mama, it's me. It's Hope. Baby. Destiny croaked, voice hoarse. Where are we? What happened? You fainted at the airport. Hope said, already crying again. You fell and wouldn't wake up. I was so scared. I thought. Destiny tried to sit up, alarm rising in her eyes. Dr. Patterson gently pressed her shoulder back. Don't try to move too fast, he said. You collapsed from severe exhaustion and dehydration. Your body basically said enough. We're giving you fluids and monitoring your heart. You're lucky it happened where people could get to you quickly. Destiny's eyes moved around the room and landed on me. I suddenly became very aware of how I must look. Expensive suit, rumpled tie, loose dark circles under my eyes. Who are you? She asked. That's Cameron, Hope said quickly. He helped us. When you fell, nobody was doing anything. So I ran and grabbed him, and he called the ambulance and came with me and stayed all night. He didn't leave, not even when the chairs were really uncomfortable. Destiny stared at me like she was trying to decide if I was real. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for taking care of my daughter. You're welcome, I said, meaning it more than I usually mean. Any polite phrase, I'm just glad I was there when she needed someone. Dr. Patterson went through everything again for Destiny. The test results, the diagnosis, the plan. You're going to need to stay a few days, he said. And after that, you're on strict rest for at least 2 weeks. No night shifts, no double shifts, no 3 jobs. Your body can't keep this up. I can't stay, she said immediately. Panic flaring. I have bills, I have rent. I already missed work tonight. If I miss more, they'll replace me, they always do. I can't afford this. Mom, you have to stay, Hope said, gripping her hand. I don't want you to die. Destiny looked at her, then at me. We'll figure that out, I said. Right now you focus on getting better. We can't afford this, she repeated, looking straight at me. Now, like I personally had set the hospital's prices. I don't have insurance. One hospital bill could ruin us. It's taken care of, I said quietly. Her eyes narrowed. What do you mean it's taken care of? I asked the hospital to bill everything to me, I said. Your stay. Your tests, your medications. Follow-ups, you don't need to worry about that right now. No, she said immediately, voice sharper than anything I'd heard from her yet. Absolutely not. I don't take charity. It's not charity. It's help, I said. There's a difference. Help comes with strings. She shot back. What do you want in return? A nice story for your PR team. A tax write-off. You know what I mean when I say she hit a nerve. I don't want anything, I said. I watched your daughter beg strangers for help while people filmed you on their phones. I happen to have money and connections. It costs me less to fix a situation like this than it costs you to miss a week of work. It would feel wrong not to do something when I can." She watched me for a long time, chest rising and falling under the hospital blanket. "I'll pay you back," she said finally. "Every cent. I don't know how long it will take, but I will. I don't want to owe anybody anything." "We can talk about that when you're stronger," I said, not wanting to argue with someone still hooked up to monitors. "No," she insisted. "We talk about it now. I don't like vague debts." "Okay," I said. "When you're discharged, if you still want to, we'll set up a payment plan. Your terms, no interest, deal." She kept her eyes on mine for another second, then gave a small nod. "Deal." I thought that was the end of it. It wasn't. The next afternoon, when I came back with real food for hope and a book for destiny, the energy in the room was different. Destiny was sitting up a little higher color, returning to her cheeks. Her phone was in her hand. Her expression was tight. "I Googled you," she said as soon as I walked in. There it was. The twist. "Yeah," I said, setting the bag down. "That happens. You're not just some guy who missed a flight," she said. "You're Cameron West. West Industries. Your name is on half the buildings I clean at night. I've been mopping floors under your company's logo for 3 years, and I didn't even know your face until now." That hit harder than any headline I've ever read about myself. Do you think that's fair?" she asked. "That I work 3 jobs and still can't afford to get sick one time, and you can lose a $40 million deal and shrug it off as a bad week?" I could have launched into some speech about risk and reward, about how I'd worked hard too, about how nobody handed me my first million on a silver platter. I've given that speech more times than I care to admit. Sitting there looking at the woman whose hospital bracelet had my name indirectly printed on it, I couldn't say any of it. "No," I said, "I don't think it's fair." She seemed surprised I didn't try to defend myself. "So why help us?" She pushed. "People like you donate to hospitals. Sure, slap your name on a wing. But this, staying all night bringing food, paying bills for a stranger. Why us? Why me? Because one time when my mom was in a hospital bed, and I was the one in that chair, somebody sat with me," I said. "He was a janitor. He gave me half an hour of his break because I looked like I was about to fall apart. He didn't want anything. He couldn't fix my mom. But he made me feel less alone. I never forgot that. When Hope grabbed me at the airport, I saw my own face in hers. It felt like the universe was asking if I'd learned anything from all that money I've made, or if I was still hiding behind glass." She looked down at her hand's fee taped to the back of one. Nails short and clean, fingers calloused. "That janitor probably makes less in a year than your watch costs," she said quietly. "Probably," I said. "Which is exactly why I don't get to pretend this is normal." She was quiet for a while. The machines hummed. Hope dozed in the chair with a comic book. "This is still too much," Destiny said finally. "The private room, the bills, the food, the way you talk to the doctors like they answer to you. It feels like I'm drowning, and somebody just airlifted me out with a helicopter. I'm grateful, but I don't know what to do with it." "Breathe," I said. "Get better. That's enough for now." She shook her head. "I need more than enough. I need a plan." "You really are different," I said, and I meant it as a compliment. "Different doesn't pay rent." She shot back, but there was the ghost of a smile on her face. "Maybe it could," I said. That's when the next twist hit me. Not as a lightning bolt, more like a slow dawning idea that once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. "What are your 3 jobs?" I asked. She told me. Front desk at a gym at dawn. Smiling at people who barely looked at her while she checked them in and wiped their sweat off machines. Data entry from home in the afternoon, entering numbers from other people's paychecks for a payroll company, that outsourced the boring parts. And cleaning office buildings downtown at night, including one owned by West Industries, where she emptied trash cans in conference rooms where I'd close deals. 16 to 18 hours a day. She said if I'm lucky I get 6 hours of sleep broken up between shifts. And that's on a good week. You're the one who thinks that's fair, right? This is your system. She wasn't wrong. That's what stung. What if you didn't have to do that anymore? I asked. What if you had one job, reasonable hours, health insurance, a salary that covered rent and food without you killing yourself? Would you take it if it was real? I don't have a degree, she said immediately. Like she'd rehearsed that sentence 1,000 times. I didn't finish college. I don't know spreadsheets like your people. I know hard work and showing up. That doesn't get you in your glass towers. You think the people answering phones and managing clients in my glass towers all have fancy degrees? I asked. Some do. A lot don't. What they have is exactly what you just listed. Grit, a brain, the ability to juggle 10 things at once without dropping them. You've been doing project management with a child on your hip for years. You just don't call it that. She looked at me like she wanted to believe me and was afraid of how much she wanted it. This isn't pity. I said I don't have some Cinderella fantasy. West Industries needs people like you. If you want, when you're ready, I can get you an interview. You do the rest. You nail it, you get the job. You don't? Then we try again or we don't. But at least you get a shot. You're serious, she said. Completely, I said. I'm tired of pretending meritocracy exists while people like you clean up after people like me. She laughed once, sharp. You really are bad at selling yourself, you know that. Yeah, that happened, I said. And for the first time, we both laughed for real. I won't drag you through every day of her recovery. She stayed a week. I kept visiting sometimes with work in my bag. That I never opened sometimes with food, Hope actually liked. I met social workers, signed temporary guardianship papers, so I could take Hope back and forth without causing legal chaos. I watched Destiny get stronger, watched her pride wrestle her gratitude, watched Hope relax by inches. Then Destiny came to my office for an interview. I wasn't in the room. I made that rule for myself. HR treated her like any other candidate, asked about her work history, her skills, why she'd had so many jobs. She answered honestly, because nobody ever offered me one job that paid enough. She talked about managing schedules, calming down angry gym members, handling difficult clients on the phone for the payroll company. She nailed it. They hired her into customer relations with full benefits for a salary that made her jaw drop. She told me about it in my office afterward, holding the offer letter like it might vanish. This is more money for one job than I have ever made in my entire life, she said. I can quit the night shift. I can be home when Hope gets out of school. I don't even know what home at 4 in the afternoon feels like. It feels like you finally get to breathe, I said. We celebrated with pizza at her apartment that night, sitting on a couch that had seen better days, while Hope used my tie as a ribbon on her stuffed elephant. The TV was playing some animated show, but I barely heard it. I was listening to them. Here's where I need you to really think about something. None of this had to happen. There is no law, no policy, no system that required me to say yes when Hope grabbed my sleeve. Everything after that, the ambulance, the hospital, the bills, the job, all of it hinged on one person with too much money deciding to use some of it a different way for once. Do you think that's fair? Should someone's entire life trajectory depend on the mood of a stranger in a suit at Gate 47? Months passed. Destiny showed up early to work every day. Learned fast, dealt with difficult clients like she'd been doing it forever because she had. People in the office liked her. Some of them side-eyed me, at first assumed she was there because I had a crush or a savior complex. Destiny shut that down quickly, mostly by being better at the job, than half of them. Meanwhile, my life changed in quieter ways. I found myself craving nights on that old couch more than any party. I left the office earlier. I checked my phone less. Hope started calling my driver Thomas the Brave and asking if we could pick him up snacks too. She drew a picture of the three of us and stuck it on my fridge. Tall guy, medium lady, tiny kid, all holding hands. My penthouse started to feel less like a museum and more like a home whenever they were in it. Of course, not everyone was thrilled. The day I brought them to a family brunch at my brother's house was a whole other kind of drama. His mansion could fit Destiny's entire apartment in the kitchen. Hope held onto my hand, eyes huge. "Are you sure they're gonna like us?" she whispered. "If they don't, that's their loss," I said, meaning it. My brother tried to be civil, but years of boardrooms leak out at the dinner table. So he said to Destiny over salad, "You work at West Industries now. Quite an unusual hiring story given the circumstances. Some people might see that as opportunistic." Destiny tilted her head. "Is that what you see?" "I see risk," he said. To the company, to my brother. Power dynamics optics. A billionaire rescue story looks good in headlines until people start asking what she's getting in return. "If you're asking whether I'm using your brother, I'm not," she said calmly. "But I also don't need you to believe me. I show up to work, I earn my paycheck, and I sign the same confidentiality and ethics agreements as everyone else. The only difference between me and the people you invite to your charity galas is that I don't pretend the system works." Richard looked like he didn't know whether to be insulted or impressed. Later that night, after we'd dropped them home, he pulled me aside. "You're in deep," he said. "This isn't just some good deed anymore. This is your life." "Are you sure about that?" I thought about Hope's hand in mine at the airport, about Destiny's voice in that hospital bed, asking if I thought this was fair, about the janitor who sat with me when I was the scared kid in the waiting room. "Yeah," I said, "I'm sure." Fast forward. 1 year after the airport. We got married. We didn't do it in some fancy vineyard or a ballroom. We did it at the airport. Terminal B, Gate 47. The same spot where she fell. The same spot where Hope's world cracked open. We turned it into something else. There were flowers folding chairs, a simple arch, and a whole lot of confused travelers who got the wildest layover story of their lives. Hope walked down the aisle, tossing petals, grinning so wide I thought her face might split. Destiny walked herself in a new yellow dress that fit better, stronger this time. When it was my turn to speak, I didn't talk about fate or destiny in the cheesy way. I talked about choices, about how one small choice, to answer a kid's cry instead of a business call, had rewritten everything. About how I wasn't saving anyone, I was joining them. We signed a prenup the week before. Her idea. She insisted on it. "I am not here for your money," she had said. "I want people to know that. You keep what you had before. We build what we build together. And if it ever ends, I walk out with what I brought in, plus what I earned. That's it. You want to talk about shutting down the gold digger narrative?" That was it. I've never respected anyone more. A few months after the wedding, on a quiet Tuesday night, she took my hand, put it on her stomach, and said, "We need a second bedroom." It took me a second. Then it hit me. "You're pregnant?" I asked. She nodded, tears already in her eyes. I'm not going to pretend I handled it cool. I cried. Full-on, ugly relief kind of crying. In 1 year, I'd gone from a guy whose calendar was his family to a guy who had a wife, a stepdaughter who sometimes called me dad when she forgot to switch back to Cameron, and a baby on the way. If you're still listening, here's the part most people like to skip. The part where we stop talking about the feel-good and start talking about the system. Because yes, this story worked out. For us, I missed a flight, helped a kid, fell in love, built a family where there was almost a tragedy. It's a great story. It gets views. People comment faith in humanity restored and share it with heart emojis. But look underneath it. Why was Destiny working 3 jobs in the first place? Why did she have no insurance in the richest country on earth? Why was one medical emergency enough to threaten everything she'd built for her daughter? Why did 30 people stand around filming instead of helping until a guy in a suit stepped in? Why was it even possible for me to casually absorb a hospital bill that would have crushed her? Do you think that's fair? I'm not asking that to be dramatic. I really want you to sit with it. Because the answer isn't just about me or her or hope. It's about the world we've built, where survival depends on luck. The luck of who happens to be standing near you when your body finally says enough. I'm a billionaire telling you this on the internet. I have benefited from this system more than most. I am not the hero here. The hero is the 6-year-old who ran toward a stranger when she could have frozen. The hero is the woman who worked herself half to death for her kid and still found room to argue about pride and fairness from a hospital bed. The hero is a janitor who once sat with a scared boy in a waiting room and taught him that being human matters more than being rich. I did one decent thing with the tools I had. Then I tried to keep doing it. That's it. So now I'm going to throw this back to you. If you were me that day at gate 47, what would you have done? Would you have run to your gate and told yourself someone else would take care of it? Or would you have dropped everything for a stranger screaming your name? If you were, Destiny, would you have trusted the guy with the black card? Or told him to get lost and handled it yourself? If you were, Hope, do you think you'd still believe your mom when she said there are helpers in the world? And bigger than that, do you think stories like ours should depend on random luck and individual kindness? Or should we be talking a lot louder about healthcare, about wages, about why people working 16 hours a day still don't have a net when they fall? I don't want you to just feel warm and fuzzy and move on. I want you to argue with this. If you think I did the right thing, say why. If you think I crossed a line or created a power imbalance, say that too. If you've ever been Destiny, exhausted one crisis away from losing everything, or ever been Hope, begging strangers to care, I especially want to hear from you. So here's my ask. Drop a comment and tell me honestly, if it were you, what would you have done? Do you think what happened to us was fair? Or did we just get lucky that one person in a crowd chose to help instead of film? Share this video with someone who needs to be reminded that one small decision in one ordinary place can change everything. Hit like if you want to see more stories where people use whatever power they have to actually help. And if you've lived something like this, if a stranger stepped in and changed your life, or if you were that stranger, tell your story below. I read them. Destiny reads them. Hope will read them one day too. Because at the end of the day, I didn't just miss a flight. I stumbled into a family. And I'd trade $40 million for that again every single time.